This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It's Jake, your host. Today's episode is going to test the limits for some people because it's about snakes in Georgia. And the reason that I did this episode is because I have been seeing all over social media snakes everywhere. Everybody is posting snakes and they're like, what kind of snake is this, good or bad? But this is a really neat story, and it will actually be a really, really helpful resource to you in identifying good snake, bad snake. We're going to see them. You're going to see them over the course of your life here in North Georgia. It's inevitable. And the more educated you are about anything, the less scary things are. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. Just know it's not going to make your skin crawl. It's not going to be super creepy. I do think you're going to learn things that will help you in your future life and in any snake encounters. I don't like snake encounters just because it's startling, and I don't know snake identification like I would like to. So, yeah, if it's a black snake, I know it's good, and that's about it. That's where my knowledge drops off. You know how to find us online, North Georgia Life Podcast at Facebook and Instagram. You can email us at northgeorgialifepodcast@gmail.com if you have any thoughts, questions, ideas for future episodes. First of all, let me apologize. I've been in another training class the last month or so. And I need to get better about prepping beforehand so that if I go a month or so without putting new episodes out there, you kind of know why. So anyway, I had a real estate class that I was taking, and it just occupied a lot of my time. But I'm out of that and looking forward to doing some more episodes this summer. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome to the North Georgia Life Podcast. It is Jake, your host, and today's episode, I'm telling you, you just need to hang with me because some of you are going to hear the topic of the episode, or maybe you read it on the podcast that you're listening to, and you have decided that this is not your cup of tea. And I'm just telling you, as somebody who's not inherently a snake lover, I have trepidations like the rest of people. There is going to be some great educational tips and tools for you, regardless of where you are on the spectrum. And I think it's a really neat story about how somebody who is fascinated with the reptile world and has really cultivated frankly, a great business out of it, can help all of us in our day-to-day life. Because as you have probably been seeing, as I've been seeing, everybody's posting pictures of snakes all over Facebook, and it kind of creeps you out if you're not a snake person. But the reality is we all see them around from time to time, and we're going to give you some great information on how to help identify them without putting them out to the Facebook audience of non-experts in the snake world. So with that said, we are with Jim Seymour and his business, Scalebrations. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, you did.
So, Jim, thanks for taking your time to talk with us.
Thank you for having me here today.
So, I want to start out because I think we got to know each other because you're a past client of mine in the real estate world, but I thought it was fascinating when we started talking, and I was very appreciative when first conversation we had, you're like, by the way, we have reptiles, so we may need to talk somewhere else if you're not comfortable with it. And as long as they're in cages and confined spaces, I'm good with it. I remember asking your wife, like, she was not okay with snakes when you guys first, like, she was not a snake person.
No, she was not.
Like, on any stretch of the imagination.
No. As a little girl, she remembers being terrified seeing him scamper across the yard. The great thing was she grew up in a family that encouraged her to respect wildlife. Mm-hmm. So even though she was scared of them, and even her parents weren't fond of them, they never hurt them. Mm-hmm. They never. So, but she remained terrified of them throughout most of her life, and she made the choice herself to overcome it. She saw the passion that I had for these animals and the amount of care that I had for them, and she actually gave me a reptile habitat one Christmas many years ago, with a little note that I could put anything in it, but she really was happier if I went with a gecko or a bearded dragon. So about 1 month later, I'm at a reptile show and I see the snake I want. And I called her. I said, I told you I was just going to look today. But
said every man that ever went to any sort of gun show, a wildlife show, outdoor show.
Exactly. So anyway, she was cool with it. I brought it home, and there for a while she was calm. She never tried to handle it or anything, but she was comfortable. It was in a habitat. She could see how well cared for it was and everything. And then all of a sudden one night I'm walking around with the snake, and she asks if she can try to hold it. And I'm like, I'm shocked. I'm like stunned. I'm like, where's my wife?
Yeah. What has happened?
Anyway, and it started down that road, and she now works with me, helping to hold reptiles. She, in fact, we're even talking. She wants to learn how to work with venomous snakes. So she, and now she's the champion of her office. And in her office, people come to her with snake questions.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So how long ago did this love for snakes, passion with snakes start? Were you the kid that was always going in the creek trying to find snakes, or how did that work?
It pretty much from childhood. I remember, I don't know if it really kind of forked off from being fascinated with dinosaurs and stuff like that, but I never remember a time in my life that I was scared of snakes. Mm-hmm. So, it kind of grew from that. And then when I was young, I was reading everything I could, learning how to identify snakes, how to take care of them, how to catch them, and all that. And it just grew from that, and it remained with me throughout my life. I went through a long period of time where I didn't have any reptiles simply because of the living arrangements and everything. And so I was quite ecstatic about getting back into it.
And how long ago was that you feel like you kind of launched into doing what you're doing with reptiles now?
I do volunteer work with another reptile rescue organization, and it was suggested to me one day. It's like, you know all this stuff. You can do this. And I'm like, wow, I would really love that. and so that's really where it started, and that was, what is this, 2020? So probably about 7-8 years ago.
Okay.
It was when that thought really became something. It's like, wow, this could be a reality.
Yeah.
And Scalebrations was born from that.
Yeah. And you have how many reptiles in your house now?
I have 5 snakes, an alligator. It requires permits to own some of these animals, and I do have the permits. And I have one rescued boa constrictor that was turned into us, and I'm currently looking for a forever home for that young boa constrictor. So normally I would have 5 snakes and 1 alligator.
And what kind of snakes is it? And is it a specific type of alligator?
Yes.
Because it's I'm trying to remember the name. Nip.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, so they told me what the name was, and I remember the first time I was in their house. And we were walking in the living room, and you had to walk by Nip's tank, and I figured out why he's called Nip, because when he sees you, he tries to nip at you, and the alligator's small. I mean, it's what is he, 2 feet?
Almost 3 foot now.
Okay, so very small in terms of an alligator, but still startling. So, and you've had Nip for how long?
I've had Nip for, I always have to look back at the feeding schedule, but I believe, Nip would be 3 years old now. It'll be 4 years as of the end of this year.
And I want to get to what kind of snakes. Do you keep an alligator to a certain point and then contact the zoo and say, "Hey, I got one"?
In this case, I'll contact the Department of Natural Resources.
Okay.
The permit to own the alligator is through them, and it's for educational purposes. Once the alligator reaches 4 foot in length, I can no longer have it where the public can touch it.
Uh-huh.
And so at that point, or possibly before, it'll be transitioned with the assistance of the Department of Natural Resources, to either another educational facility that has a larger enclosure, a zoo. It'll make its way. It'll always have to remain in captivity.
Yeah, yeah. And the snakes, the 5 snakes are...
There's Alice, which is a bull snake. That's from the central part of the United States. There's Pete and Repeat that are eastern, yes, brother and sister, I'm pretty sure, that are eastern rat snakes, one of the snakes really commonly seen around here. We have an eastern copperhead, also for the educational program, and we have an adult male boa constrictor. That's 5, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And have you had all these for years, or any of these new acquisitions?
It's occurred over a period of time. Alice was that first snake I got. Alice was that first snake that my wife ever held. And then from Alice, I ended up getting the eastern rat snakes and the eastern copperhead along within a few months of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then the boa constrictor was a rescue where it had been abandoned in a house and was basically left to starve to death.
Mm.
And hence the name Bones.
Yeah, I had that thought when I was driving over here. So I hear stories of people that get the boas, the pythons, and I don't know, frankly, how or where they get some of these things, but these are snakes that are obviously get probably far too big for staying in a normal, fish tank enclosure, for lack of a better term. Where for people who have those things, or parents that have that 8-year-old kid that is nagging and nagging and nagging and nagging for that, and they want to think, okay, if we did this, what do we do in 8-10 years when this thing is 6 feet long and it needs to find a home that is not under our roof? Like, what do people do? How do you handle something like that?
Honestly, if you're thinking about on down the road, what do I do when it gets this big? You shouldn't get it. It means that you can't properly take care of that animal for its life. If you do find yourself in that situation, though, let's say you impulse buy or whatever, you didn't do the research, or your life changes and you can no longer keep it, there are rescue organizations like mine and others that will seek to find a forever home for that animal. Most of the people that keep the pythons, the larger pythons, boas are on the smaller side as far as the big snakes go, boa constrictors, that is. But for the people that keep the larger snakes, they typically have custom-built enclosures. I build my own enclosures.
Okay.
So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Fish tank, yeah.
Not going to work.
You're not going to work, yeah.
Any favorite memories, stories from? So on your card, you do educational shows. I know there's a reptile day at the Alachie Nature Center here in Hall County. I know there's some other ones around other counties, and hopefully everything gets back on schedule here soon. But you do reptile themed parties.
Do reptile themed parties, which really is coming in with a few reptiles, doing basically a very light educational program, so that the kids understand, hey, you don't run up to this, and this is how this may behave if you come across it, and then give them a chance to touch and hold, take pictures with the animal, etc. We really try to mix something like that up with fun as well as providing a little bit of education.
Right, yeah, which is, at some point in everybody's life, you are going to see a snake.
Yeah.
So it's best to learn when you're young how to go about that. It's kind of like anything in wildlife. You see a bear, what to do. You run. If you see a baby bear, you run faster.
Yes.
Any favorite memories, best stories, things that you think back on and just say, this is so much fun, or this is really worth it, or just kind of feel good stories?
Probably one of my very favorite ones was back when, in the younger years, in the earlier stages of this. And like I said earlier, I studied all about how to catch snakes, identify them, and all that. So whenever we were going to a more remote location, I always had my snake bag, my homemade snake hook, and a little rope to tie around the top of a pillowcase with me. my dad and I were on our way out to Elberton, Georgia, to visit his parents, and it's very rural, long, straight, gently dips and rises in the road. And we come up over this rise, and there's this beautiful, large eastern rat snake laying across the road. And when I say laying across, no, not totally across, is laying in the middle of the road. In a split second, I have grabbed my snake hook bag, got the door open and a leg out. We are still traveling at highway speed. I did not jump out of the car. My dad's panicking. He's like, whoa, whoa. And so he gets the vehicle stopped. We hop out. We were right next to a cornfield. There was no sign of that snake, but that was really an exciting encounter for me. I mean, I've had lots of others, first-time encounters with various snakes, but that from my childhood is just, it's one of those that sticks with me.
Yeah. So I think I'm trying to remember if it was a home inspector that I was talking to. I was talking to somebody in the last few months that we were talking about rattlesnakes. So most people don't see rattlesnakes on a day-to-day basis, but I actually had a house, I think it was last year, that was on a crawl space. I've never had this happen before, and I'm not trying to freak you guys out that have crawl spaces, but there was a copperhead den and a rattlesnake den under the same house. So the inspector that I talked to, he said something to me like, he's like, have you ever heard the rattle of a rattlesnake, like, you know, not in captivity? And I said, no. He said, it is about the most terrifying thing you will ever experience. He said, because you when you first hear it, you don't know where it is. It's that sound, and you're like, I think it's the rattle of a rattlesnake, because those are around here. They're not super common, but they are in our area, and frankly copperheads as well. Any like the biggest single tip, you know, if you encounter a snake like that, I'm telling you, I've seen it all on Facebook. I've seen people doing things on Facebook. I'm like, oh my gosh, is the next post from the ER? You know, did you put a hole in your wall? Like, what happened?
The biggest thing that we teach people is most people are bitten by venomous snakes after the snake has been discovered. Most people are bitten by venomous snakes because they try to interact with the animal. They see it, oh my gosh, I've got to get this out of here, or they try to kill it, and in the process of doing that, they end up getting bitten. If you see a venomous snake, and I'll touch...
I want to talk on the identification of that.
I'm sorry, I was jumping the gun there.
No, you're good.
Anyway, but if you see a snake that is truly a venomous snake, the best thing to do is to leave it alone and to call a professional to remove it. There are people like myself. There's organizations all over Georgia, all over the country really, that do this happily. And, you know, we love giving these animals a chance to live. They have a purpose in our world. We may not understand it. A lot of people don't understand it, but they have a purpose in our world, and it's a very vital part in our natural ecosystem. They control the levels of certain populations of other animals, and they also provide food for other animals. So they're very important to have around, regardless of what you think of them. Mm-hmm. But yes, interacting with them is generally a road to getting bitten. The way to avoid being bitten by a venomous snake is to never ever try to catch or kill one, and watch where you put your hands and feet.
Yeah. Your comment about just their role and their balance in our world, our ecosystem, our environment. Have you seen there's a documentary, and I'm trying to remember if it was on Netflix or Amazon Prime, or there's a documentary somewhere, maybe Hulu. It's called I think it's The Biggest Little Farm or The Biggest Small Farm or something like that. And it's this family out in California that decides they're going to, you know, basically build this farm out of this, you know, let go piece of land. And it's a documentary over, I think, like 7 years. Mm-hmm. and it's all of the stuff that they're doing. And it's a full blown diversity to the max of as far as the animals, the types of fruits, vegetables, all the stuff they're growing. And the biggest thing that I took away from it, because I'm sitting here thinking, I'm watching this, and my practical brain is sitting here watching these people thinking they must have like a gazillion dollars because they are spending so much, investing so much in this piece of property. And I think now they actually give tours of the property. It's really neat. But they go through all these different crises that along the way where they're having like this slug infestation where the slugs are devouring their fruit trees or something like that. And the guy that had kind of helped them and coached them along the way of this is what you need to do. You need to stay the course and then do this and this and this. He told them it's going to take about 7 years to achieve the balance with the ecosystem you have going on. And sure enough, by the time they got to that point, because they would have weevils that were destroying things, but then they put up boxes for owls, and then there's these weevil snakes, and then they were having problems with coyotes, and then they got these dogs and like all these different things, and the slugs, and they got the ducks, and apparently ducks love slugs, so they let the ducks loose in the orchard, and the ducks took care of the slug problem, or the snails or whatever. And so it was that really neat look at saying, like, there really is a balance between things that we love and we pet and things that we run away from or try to get a shovel to.
Yeah.
And just seeing that. So if you haven't watched that and this is at all interesting to you, I think it's really, really fascinating to see there is a point in which things do reach a balance and a harmony, and you don't have to go around killing things to establish the end goal of what you're really after. So I want to go back to the snakes, the venomous snakes, because I've seen this, and especially one of the home inspectors I know, he's found several sheds of snake skins in attics, crawl spaces, basements, and when a homeowner finds those, like maybe a trip to the ER, pass out, cold sweat, it's certainly discomforting to know that something that you didn't know was in your house left that somewhere in or around your house. But there's a easy way of identifying when you find that good snake, bad snake.
Right.
Because if it's a good snake, yeah, you probably still want to get, if it's in your house, obviously, get that caught, trapped, and removed to its natural environment outside, which it is probably trying to get to as well. But obviously, if it's a bad snake and venomous snake, you definitely want to be able to remove that very quickly. So how does somebody that is not a reptile lover, a snake connoisseur, identify that easily?
Okay, so we'll start with the shed skin thing. Let's say you find a shed skin at the base of a tree in your yard or in your crawl space or wherever out. So it's very easy to tell from that shed skin whether that came from a venomous or a non-venomous snake. Now, it doesn't even mean that snake is living around there. They have a home range. Most of the time, for most of our snake species, you're looking about an eighth square mile. Easy for me to say. So anyway, so you take that shed skin and you turn it upside down so that you're looking at the wide scales that go all the way across the bottom of it. As you approach the tail, you'll find a small half-moon shaped scale that's the anal vent. From that starting at that anal vent, going back towards the tip of the tail, if it's a double wide row of scales, and you are in the northern part of Georgia, and I'll explain that more in a minute, we have pit vipers. That's our only venomous snakes, are pit vipers. If you are looking at the underside of that tail from that anal vent going back towards the tip, and it's a double row of scales meeting in the middle, that's from one of our harmless snakes. If it is a row that continues to go all the way across, right after that anal vent going towards the tip of the tail, that is from one of our pit vipers that range into our area.
So if the scales kind of continue the same through the length of it,
Right.
that's venomous.
Right.
If it changes after that anal vent, then that is a non-venomous.
That's a very good way of putting
Okay.
it, yes.
Okay.
And even on the venomous ones, as it gets towards the very tip of the tail, it'll go to that double row.
Okay.
But that immediately right
Okay.
after, yes.
Okay.
Now, one of the biggest things that we fight on snake identification, because you still see it in books, is eye shape and the shape of the head. And we're going to touch on the shape of the head. You walk up on a snake and you see it's got a triangular shaped head. That tells you absolutely nothing. Now, while it's true, our pit vipers naturally have that more triangular shaped head. Most of our harmless snakes, when they feel threatened, can move the bones in their head to make their head look more triangular. They do this to look scary. It's no different than a dog raising the hackles on the back of its neck and growling, or a cat arching its back and hissing at you. It's no different. It's just that snake's way of trying to look more dangerous. So you can't go by head shape alone. The elliptical pupils that our pit vipers have, while if that snake is in bright light, it's true, its pupils will most likely be elliptical, but you take that same snake, that copperhead or that timber rattlesnake or that pygmy rattlesnake, move it from the bright sunlight to the shade of a tree, and those elliptical pupils go round to let in more light. So you can't always go by those two things. The easiest thing to do is just to learn how to identify the few venomous snakes that you have in your area. For most of our areas, let's say right here where we're sitting right now in Hall County, you're on the range of only 3 venomous snakes. It's the timber rattlesnake, the copperhead, and the pygmy rattlesnake. And the only one of those you are likely to see would be the copperhead. Mm-hmm. And there's a wonderful pamphlet. In fact, I'm going to show it to Jake. But you can go to my website. You can go to the Department of Natural Resources. There's a wonderful little pamphlet you can download called Venomous Snakes of Georgia. This pamphlet has a map that shows you county by county what venomous snakes range into your area, and it gives you identification tips. So let's say, okay, where we are, we're roughly in the range of about 25 different species of snake. Of those 25, there's only 3 venomous snakes. What's easier to learn how to identify? Learn how to identify the 22 harmless species, or learn how to identify the 3 venomous snakes. And it's very easy to learn how to identify them by their pattern.
I gotcha. So for those of you listening, I will put a link to that and put a snapshot of it on the Facebook and Instagram pages for the podcast. So if you go on Facebook or Instagram and go to the North Georgia Life Podcast, you can just scroll through and find that link as well as the information. I'm going to do that because I have seen multiple different kinds of snakes when I've been out and about, and it's very easy. Like, I mean, I know what a king snake looks like. I know what a rat snake looks like, and that's about it. You know, I know if it has a bright orange, bronzy head, it's a copperhead, and and if it has a rattle, like I'm running. I'm like running in terror, and that's about the knowledge of my expertise. So just in case somebody, was not paying attention and they see a snake that ends up being venomous and they've not listened to anything that we've shared at this point, and they go poking at it with a broom and they get bitten, what do they do?
Okay. And this is probably the most difficult part. Number 1, remain calm. Okay. You don't want to raise your pulse rate unnecessarily. There's a lot of old information out there regarding what to do with a snake bite if you have a venomous snake bite. What most of us that go out looking for these animals and working with them, we consider our car keys to be our most important tool, and it's very simple. For the most part, you want to be receiving treatment within a couple of hours. Of the venomous snakes that range into the area where we are now, there's only one that's considered deadly venomous, and that's the timber rattlesnake. The copperhead, which is the one you're most likely to encounter, is actually has the mildest toxicity of its venom. It's not considered deadly venomous, but You could be allergic to the venom. Everybody's different. We all react differently to bee stings.
Mm-hmm.
So, number one, remain calm. Do not cut the incision. Do not make incision marks on the bite and try to draw the venom out. Do not put a tourniquet on that severely restricts the blood flow. You do want to use a tourniquet to slow the blood flow down in and out of the area. But if you put a tourniquet on trying to stop the blood flow, basically what you're going to do is you're going to concentrate the damage to the tissue. So don't do that. Just remain as calm as you can be and just get to the hospital where you can get the proper treatment.
Don't panic is yeah. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah, easier said than done.
Before we wrap up, I like to do something I call the lightning round, which is a question that has nothing to do about anything. It's just a fun question. So today's lightning round question is going a little bit back, but I think old music is good music. I call this the heartstring question. So which song plucks more heartstrings for a pop rock ballad? Runaway Train by Soul Asylum or Desperado by the Eagles?
I'm kind of a hard rock guy, heavy metal. So anyway, yeah, I know. Yeah, I know.
Which one would your wife say?
You wouldn't. She would call me a metalhead. Anyway, okay, I'm going to go ahead and say the song by the Eagles because I'm more familiar with that one.
Yeah. So how do people find you if people have, let's say they've got that 8-year-old that is a dinosaur fanatic, a reptile fanatic, and while they don't want to purchase a reptile, that would be a really great thing to have as a birthday party. Where do people find you as far as things you're going to educationally that are scheduled things, shows and stuff like that? And then if somebody has a question or finds a snake, in their garage, in their crawl space outside that says, "Hey, me no likey," how do they contact you to see about having that removed?
The two easiest ways, we've got our website, and the easiest way I can tell people to remember the name is you take Scalebrations and replace the CE with SCA, Scalebrations. So scalebrations.com is our website. We also have a Facebook page that is /Scalebrations. Either one of them can put you in contact with us. Our phone number's listed there. For public events, we list them on our calendar on our webpage on the scalebrations.com. We don't list the private events there. We have a calendar where things like the Olachi Nature Center, which we are hoping is still on for this year with COVID-19 and the changes going on. We're not sure how public events are going to be going forward. We are looking into, and in fact, starting plans for doing a little bit more video work and posting videos, educational videos on the website or on our Facebook page. So we're looking at ways to keep getting the message out there and making it easier for people to reach and find more information and learn more about these critters.
Good deal. Well, some of this I knew, some of this is new, and I've learned stuff today. So it's one of those things that all of us have different fears and trepidations in life, and most of the time, education helps resolve a lot of those things and learning about some of those things and getting some of those questions answered. Doesn't mean you have to be a snake wrangler in your future life, but certainly I hope this is helpful for you that are listening, and you can share it with people either in your office or in your home to just know what to do when you inevitably encounter a snake when you're going through your daily life. So, and if you want to seek them out, you've got the website and the Facebook page to go to. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Jim, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
This is the North Georgia Life Podcast. Embrace life where you live.